Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Yeah, it's an hour. Some people would hope it would be 15 minutes, but that's all right.
I always aim for at least 13 minutes personally.
Right.
That's my kind of cap, 13, 14 minutes.
I did a show for 7 summers on WPSX TV entitled 15 Minutes. And the show was 13 minutes and 12 seconds of content, and that's about all people could endure.
Oh, yeah.
That's my face on TV for 13 minutes and 12 seconds. That is not good. All right. So, let's get to the game. Look, there's incredible disappointment across the board. And you go into a game like this, and I just thought Penn State was in a great position going into this game, which probably then added to the disappointment of the outcome. The defense played extremely well.
That was a championship-level defense.
Both defenses. Ohio State played great defense. But Penn State played great defense in this game. Their special teams, except for the one punt that hit the ground, and instead of getting the ball maybe between the 40 and the 50, you got the ball back on the 24, so it ended up being a 72-yard punt because they got about a 20-plus yard roll. Other than that, Penn State special teams were really good. Falcons hit both his field goals. Riley Thompson, it's the best he's punted all year. Kickoff return by Singleton, a kickoff return by Potts. Hardy had one good punt return. Special teams did great, right? And of course, now we get to obviously the offense. It's almost impossible to win a game when you are 1 for 16 on third down and then 1 for 3 on fourth. Because you can't string enough plays together to win. You can't keep drives going. And it didn't matter what the situation was. In fact, the one conversion was over 5 yards. So they were, I think, 0 of 6 on third and less than 4. And then 1 of 10 on third and 5 or better. Now, Ohio State was 6 of 16. Now, that's below their average. But that's about an average. Okay. That's a decent day for a team to go 37.5%.
It'll
6
get
of
you
16. Through. It'll get you through. And it got them through. They had the best player on the field. Now, everybody knew going into the game that he was the best player on the field.
Who, Maserati Marv, as he was called on air.
Is that what he was called?
As he was called.
Yeah, that's something I would like to point out. I'll get to the Jacobs play in a moment. But you knew going into the game as the best player in the field. I entered the game feeling that Kyle McCord was a good quarterback. That's how I entered the game. Not mediocre, not fair, not very good, not excellent. Right? Good. I left the game thinking Kyle McCord was good. And that his receiver is great.
Yeah.
But I already knew his receiver was great. If he does not, it's speculation on my part, but if he doesn't get hurt in the Georgia game at the end of the third quarter, I think Ohio State beats Georgia in the national semifinal because Georgia could not handle him.
Almost no one can handle him.
With C.J. Stroud at quarterback. McCord took 35 attempts in the game. 16 were thrown to Harrison. He made 11 catches. Right? 16. And he made all 6 catches in the second half. The 5 misses were in the first half. And what they did on the last touchdown is they played zone and they streaked the outside guys and had him underneath, and that put him into that one dead area. And then, of course, he took it, and to the credit of the receiver, I'm not sure which one it was, whether it was Tate or Fleming.
I think it was Fleming was who it was.
That made a block at about the 5 or 10, and Harrison got into the end zone. Because he's just good, he's fluid, he just makes tough catches when you need a tough catch. After the catch, he's outstanding. He's just like, they had the best player on the field, but you knew going into the game he was going to be the best player on the field. Okay. What does that tell you about him, that everybody knows he is, and he still is able to rack up the numbers he racks up? He's just really an impressive player. All right, so these games, and I'll go back to what I said last week, and it will fit into this week. It'll fit into the commentary today. What's the difference between Penn State and Ohio State? And please don't start doing all the blah blah. This coach ought to be fired. That coach ought to be fired. Don't. Okay, I don't want to hear that stuff. It's always been one key player sequence in each half. I said that last week, right? And I could always point to where it is. Okay. Well, what's the difference in this game? One key sequence each half. So let's go to the first half. What's the key sequence? The key sequence is the Jacobs play, where he gets the fumble, forces the fumble, gets the fumble, runs it back for a touchdown. And a holding penalty is called in the secondary. So I did point this out in the broadcast, but I'll make the point here just so everybody knows. We did not have the Fox feed in the booth on Saturday. So we had the scoreboard feed. So I never saw the play on replay. I didn't see the play on replay until halftime of the Utah-USC game. Right? So I didn't see it. And when it originally happened, I thought actually Hardy had the ball. Right? And but see, Curtis plays that his back number rolls up on him a bit with the jersey. That's my fault. I've got to be able to do a better job than that.
Jack's got to keep you more accountable.
No, but but again, we didn't have a replay of it where I can look up and go, oh, that's it. I didn't have that, and so we never saw the play in terms of what they called downfield. And because Harrison's involved in the play, they had a camera on him.
Yeah.
Right? So even Harrison's doing nothing. They probably had a camera isolated on him all day because and so holding is called at the 16-yard line. That allows them to keep the drive alive. Williams scores from 1 yard out. That's a 14-point swing. And notice what Ryan Day did after that play.
What did he do?
Very little. At that point, his trust in his quarterback as to what he wanted. You notice, like, deep shots? No. Everything was short, quick game, underneath. They tried to do everything they could to take the game off his plate. And Jack and I noticed it right away. Like, as soon as that play happened, it was like, my trust level is not high in my guy. All right? Just make sure you know where 18 is. Go from there. Smart. That's smart. That's fine.
Yeah.
It was a winning formula for them. But in rushing the ball, yeah, they ran the ball. But then you look at the end of the game, they had 79 yards rushing. Really. So that's one key sequence. There's a 14-point swing. So now, instead of Penn State leading 10-3 at halftime, it's 10-6 at halftime. You play a scoreless third quarter. Some genius said at the end of the third quarter, whomever wins the fourth quarter wins the game.
Wonder who that could have been.
Yeah, I wonder who that was. And now we get to the second key sequence. Again, which sequence do you win? Ohio State won the sequence in the first half. Who wins the sequence in the second half? When you're that close to being matched up. Penn State comes up with a goal line stand. I think it was Jalen Reed made the play, the last play in the fourth down. This is where they brought in Devin Brown to run the quarterback draws, and he got hurt, and they had to take him off. They brought McCord in. They tried to throw it. Everything was like, all right. And Penn State stopped him. Wow. Okay, it's 10-6. Okay. Well, you're backed up, and that third down pass play is thrown behind Singleton just a bit, so he doesn't get it. So now it's okay. It's 4th and 1. You're going to punt. All right, so you punt. Well, it hits off Fleming's foot, and Tyler Elsdon recovers it.
It's a major recovery. It's huge.
Huge. Now suddenly you're at the 48-yard line. All right. So there's about 8+ minutes to go in the game. And you get to what was it, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, something like that. And they run a pass play, and it didn't go. So, and again, it's part of that 1 for 16. It didn't happen. So now you have two options there. You can either punt it, put it on your defense, which I think a lot of people thought was going to happen because the defense was playing lights out. Or you can go for it on 4th down and see if you can create something. So now what enters into a decision like that? What enters into the decision is, okay, where am I on the field? Might this be one of the best positions I have to do something? And how many possessions are left potentially in the game? Mm-hmm. That last one's the biggest one. How many possessions do I think are left? Now, I've got a defense where I know with them, I feel pretty confident I am going to get another possession. So that would enter into for people who say you should kick there, that would enter into it for them. Hey, look, I'm going to get the ball. My defense is playing lights out. I'm going to get the ball back. Or you're looking around saying, hey, look, you know what? We've been throwing this on them all day. We've got to make something happen ourselves here offensively. Let's get a play here. And it didn't go. Now, as James has said to me once, he has said to me 25 times this year about 4th down. He says, oh, yeah. He says, Steve, he says, all these 4th down plays have been working. I'm a genius. He says, first one that goes bad, he says, I'm going to look like the biggest idiot. He says, I'm going to, people are like, you don't know what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Now, he knows. Well, they didn't get it. So, of course, now it's 7:17 to go. Ohio State gets the ball at the 43, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And they put a drive together, and that turns out to be the one. I think that was the touchdown pass to Harrison. Those are the two key sequences in the game, and Ohio State ended up fortuitous on one, right? And outstanding execution on the other after Penn State had good fortune with the ball going off Fleming's foot and Elsdon recovering it on the punt. Just like the Cam Miller play against UMass, or was it?
Yeah.
UMass, where it hit off his foot when Day was coming up to recover it, and the UMass recovered it. It's the same play, just turned out this was in a bigger spot against a terrific team. And so Penn State had, you wonder if it's like, hey, we just got this great opportunity, got to take advantage of it. And, that probably entered into it at that point. Either way, if you want to punt, I got it. If you want to go for it because you feel like this is your opportunity, you're down one score, I got it. And the choice they made was to go for it. It didn't work, which, of course, brings with it an avalanche of criticism, especially with the time remaining in the game because it was 7:17 left when Ohio State took over. And there's the game.
Yeah.
Right there. You're 1 of 16 on 3rd down. You're 1 of 3 on 4th down. And the two key sequences in the game, one didn't go your way. The other one, Ohio State won it. And that was
it.
That was it. And it was, I know for the Penn State fans, it was a frustrating and getting more frustrating with each sequence, 3.5 hours. Right?
It was a long game.
But it had to be, for Penn State fans, a frustrating, grinding, hard 3.5 hours to watch. And look, and people are upset. Right? You have your opportunity here. And I really, believe me, I kind of walked out of here on Friday. I felt good about this whole thing. This wasn't one of those, gee, I hope they win things. I was wrong.
Yeah. And I know it was discussed on our pregame show and the postgame show as well that Penn State came into this game as favorites. That it felt like this is the year.
Well, they were the underdog. They were
the underdog point-wise, but everyone was saying this is the year Penn State should win. Right. Like this is the best year feeling it. And we came out of the game, of course, losing it. And I wanted to ask you a question because I didn't get to watch the game fully through. I was not able to watch the entirety of it.
Sure.
And something I noticed afterwards, looking at just the stats, and as someone who looks at stats, it's always intriguing to look at this, is the disparity between passing and running for Penn State.
Sure.
Because we've discussed ad nauseum that Singleton and Katron Allen are this two-headed monster at running back, where you're like, they can win you games. Singleton has home run speed. Katron Allen has been great since he came back from injury.
Right, sure.
And they ran the ball a total of 18 times, and Aller passed the ball 42 times.
Right.
Up until that last drive or so, there wasn't really a point where you had to throw yourself back into that game.
He threw how many times? 42?
42 passes. He had 18 completions.
So before the last drive, he had 33 attempts. So it was 33 attempts to 18 rushes. Okay. So let's look at first down for a moment. There's one thing about having anybody who watches the Facebook Live will see this, an iPad sitting there, and that's my iPad. And it's on what's called Stat Broadcast. Stat Broadcast is as fine a statistical machine for any game, basketball or football, I've ever seen. They cover everything, and they do it in real time. So let's go back to the Northwestern game. Jack and I had a perception in the Northwestern game. Perception, just on watching the game, that, boy, Penn State's running the ball a lot on first down. So I was able to go to Stat Broadcast on a commercial break, boom, call it up, bang, 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 go to advanced stance, boom, bring it up. 23 to that point of the game, 23 attempts on first down, 17 were runs, 6 were passes. So the stats backed up our perception. Penn State in this game had 28 first down plays when it was all said and done. It turned out that 15 were passes, 13 were runs. So there's been two perceptions I've heard. I've heard that perception, and here's the other perception I heard. Was all Penn State did was run on first and second down, then throw in third down. I'm telling you, this is
what you're hearing.
Look, and I listen to everybody. It's I just like politely listen. And I go, okay.
But you don't listen to Jason, of course.
Who? No, I'm just kidding. Right. But you politely listen, and part of it is I know what the numbers say because I'm using those numbers to prepare for the next game. I have what Penn State does on first down on my chart. I have the breakdown on third and less than 4 on my chart. Third and 5+ on my chart. The opponent, third and less than 4 on the chart. 5+ on the chart. So I've got a lot of stuff I may not use in the game.
Yeah.
But I have. So Penn State, so just take first down. Had 28 attempts on first down. 15 were passes, 13 were runs. So it wasn't first down run, second down run, whatever. It also was a little more balanced first down to second down. Now, late in the game, maybe you start to pass. You're passing on, like the 9-play drive was all passes.
Yeah.
All right, for the touchdown to Saunders. And so they went 13-15, run to pass. They averaged, believe it or not, 6 yards of play on first down in the game, which is just about their average for the season. They average about 6.1 to 6.2 yards of play on first down for the season. And they were pretty close to that. They actually had 167 yards on first down in the game. And Ohio State had 152, and they had like 30 first down attempts.
Yeah.
Right? It was so you're doing enough on first down on the average. I mean, so, a 9-play here and a 1 play there. It's like, it comes out to 5 yards. Right? But you're doing enough on average to now make it second down and let's see what we can do here, which then should set you up on third down. Well, when you're talking about third down, Penn State had 6 chances on third and less than 4 and converted none of them in the game. And that's the part that becomes maddening because I'll give you what the numbers were the first 6 games. Penn State was 66% on third down and less than 4 in their opening 6 games, which includes West Virginia's defense, Iowa's defense, everything. Okay? 66%. A good number on third and less than 4 is between 55 and 60. They were 66. This game, 0 for 6. Ugh. Okay? Third down and 5+. What's a good number, third down and 5+? Anything over 30% is. Right? You know what Penn State's defense is for the season on third and 5+? 20%.
Good defense right there.
Right? It was 19.7 8 going into the game, and Ohio State was 2 of 10 on 3rd and 5 or better in the game. Obviously, one of them was the touchdown play at the end.
Yeah.
Which is the killer. But 20%, that's kind of defense they're playing. Well, you know what Penn State is in 3rd and 5 or better? They came into the game at 37%. That's a phenomenal number. Because, again, you're looking at everybody else's numbers across the country. You know, I'm looking at the top teams about where they are. I'm not looking at what Wake Forest happens to be. I could care less.
Oof.
Well, no, you know, because Penn State doesn't play them, and they're not in competition with them for anything. It's not like they're in the top 15 or whatever. You go 1 for 16, and you could debate play. I mean, I can't even in my mind go back to individual play calls. Right, except for the 3rd down and 4 play there, with just over 7 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. Yeah, that one I remember. But other ones don't really, come to mind right away when you're broadcasting 160 plays, 170 plays in a game. But that's where the ball game was won. Ohio State did just enough to sustain a couple of drives, and Penn State didn't do enough to sustain drives. And that's what it comes down to in a game like that. And you can talk about individual play calls. You can talk about, for example, somebody asked me, my students this morning had a lot of questions, which is fine. I stood up there and I answered them. Because I encouraged it. I said, guys, you can ask anything you want. Go ahead. Everything's fine. And they asked about, one student asked me about Cephas playing more. Cephas had 2 catches on the last drive. And I pointed out that you have to remember that when you're talking about competition at wide receiver, the wide receivers are not just competing with other wide receivers for space in the field. Who else are they competing with? The tight ends. Well, if you got Johnson and Warren out there, whom you perceive to be your best, 2 of your better options, you perceive them as 2 of your better options, you want to play them. When they went 3rd, it was Liam Clifford. But Liam Clifford has won that spot. And Cephas has been getting better and better and better in practice. But again, with Wallace back,
one less slot is open.
And you're not always going to play 2 tight ends, but Penn State plays a lot of 2 tight ends. Because guess what? Those are 2 of your better options, 2 of your better receivers. In fact, the one field goal drive, he throws it to Warren for 11 yards on the sideline, breaks a tackle, gets a 1st down. Then he throws the 34-yard pass play to Theo Johnson, who goes down the sideline. Okay. Running the ball more. I felt like Singleton had something going there, especially over the left side. It seemed like he had something. So
off the start, he got 20 yards and 15 yards on 2, and you're like, okay, there's he's here, right. He's ready to play today.
And he also had the 37-yard kickoff return. And it's like, okay, so I can see the argument about, hey, could they have run the ball more? I can see that argument, sure. I mean, in hindsight, sure. I can see that. But there are a couple times they tried to run the ball on 3rd down and didn't get it. So
I think just
it's just a frustrating search for answers type of afternoon where Ohio State played great defense. For the most part, played really well on special teams. They had the missed field goal, and the other field goal barely made it. I mean, I kind of waited on that one, I'm not sure. And it looked like, I don't know if it went over the upright or was just inside the upright. Couldn't tell. All right. So their special teams were good. Penn State was good. So that was boom. Both defenses were great. And they did just enough offensively, including that short drive to finally put it away to get it done.
And I think a big part of the frustration is it was a frustrating day, as we've said.
It was totally frustrating.
They, of course, have Marvin Harrison Jr. And you say he's a big game player.
He's the best player in the.
He's the best player in the field.
He's the best player in the field in any game they play with. Okay, and that includes future opponents.
And you look at this and say, Penn State's got to have some guy who can be a game changer at some point.
Sure.
And early in this game, as we've kind of now pointed out, it was Singleton. Singleton felt like the guy who he just had it going.
Yeah.
He just got his thing here and there. And you said, maybe you try and give it to him.
Yeah.
And I know there was one where he dropped, it was behind him, the screen pass.
That was the third down. And
that was the third down.
And one play at the 11-yard line before the punt hit the foot of Fleming and Elsdon recovered. Yes.
It just felt like so often there was a bit of like forcing it into Aller's hands to make these throws, which is why the 18 for 42 comes into it. Because you say, well, the Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, who are your guys, who you're like, I can go to them to trust they'll get me something, didn't really have much to do. They combined 74 yards on 18 rushes. It's not great. It's not awful. But you said maybe at some point you trust them a little bit, or trust Singleton on more screenplays. Give him the ball in space. Let him run.
And he's become very effective, to your point, in the pass game. He really has. So I would say to that, when you're 1 of 16 on third down, I keep going back to that, that prevents the additional carries you're talking about. If you end up going even 4 for 16 or 5 for 16 on third down, now, is 5 for 16 an awesome percentage? That's what, 31.5%, 32%?
Something like that.
Right. Okay. But that's 5 more. Now I got a new sequence of 3 plays. Now you're running the ball more because you've now picked up 4 more first downs compared to the one you got. You got 4 more first downs, which now gives you, at minimum, 12 more plays to run, where maybe you're running the ball with Allen and Singleton maybe 6 of those 12 times. You see what I'm saying? And you lost the additional opportunities to run the ball because you weren't converting on third down, or you weren't converting on second down. I mean, part of that, too, is what are you doing on second down, right? Are you converting on second down? There's a lot of times you're like, oh, this team was like, they were 2 for 8 on third down. Well, guess what? They won the game by a big margin because guess what? On second down, they were converting left and right and didn't get the third down.
Yeah.
So Ohio State kept Penn State not off schedule, but kept them from going beyond on schedule on first and second down. And that was, and that's where it comes into play. So if you get 4 more first downs, who knows what it means to additional scoring.
Yeah.
But it also means more that at minimum you're getting 12 more plays, which may be, let's just go on a balanced life.
6 and 6.
6 runs, 6 passes. That's 6 more times Allen and Singleton could have handled the ball. Right? And didn't get it because they didn't convert enough on third down. It's like everything dominoes when it's all said and done.
And I don't know if this is just me trying to get inside the head of James Franklin, which is never a good idea because I am not him and I'm not as smart as him. But I'm guessing there was some part of him who said Denzel Burke is out, their cornerback. That gives you great player, and it gives you more of a feeling of maybe we pass the ball more today because he's now out. There's one less threat for them against our receivers.
You're trying to exploit your matchup. I know Keandre Lambert-Smith had 6 catches in the game.
12 targets or something crazy.
12 targets, and Wallace had 2 catches in the game. Hancock, I thought, by the way, stepped up, played well.
Oh, yeah. And that was a big part of the balance there. But my head was and I know I discuss the Saints a lot here, but as a Saints fan, I see what we do with Alvin Kamara, or especially what Breeze did when he was still with the Saints, is that as soon as something wasn't going right for the day, things weren't working. Breeze said, I'm just going to give it to Kamara and just give him a quick screen, give him something to let him look ahead and let him make a play. Because he's my big time player. And it feels like for Penn State, that right now is Nick Singleton in terms of you give him the ball in space and he will make magic happen. And we've seen it constantly in the past few seasons that he can do that. And it just felt like there was not the opportunity given to him enough for him to do that. And that's where, as we've said, frustration comes in, and it's just why is this happening, and why is Aller passing the ball this much, and we haven't seen him do that this year? We're looking at the games outside of, realistically, there was maybe one game where he's gone above 33 passes in a game, and that was Iowa. He had 37. But that game also, Singleton and Allen had each 20-plus runs.
But what did they do on third down?
They converted them.
Right,
and it makes sense.
Which gives you more plays. They ran 97 plays in the game.
Exactly.
He threw 37 passes, and then I think Perbula, had a couple in that game as well. But you still had more than 50 runs in that game. And again, your ability to convert and string plays together. See, Penn State had a lot of long drives this season. Well, you don't get long drives unless you string plays together and convert a third down here or there. It's not always converting a third down. Or it's now fourth and half a yard and you get it. And they just couldn't string enough together. Yeah, I mean, the 2 field goals and the touchdown, they strung plays together. But that's out of 14 drives. The other 11 drives, they couldn't string enough plays together, and that's, and it's the same thing with Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State scored on 4 drives in the game. I mean, it's like, it's, the 2 key sequences are the one in the first. I said, I always talked about Ohio State's had the ability to get that one play in the first half, the one play in the second half, right, to win games. Well, this time they got the key sequence in the first half on the Jacobs play, which, like, you're looking around like going, all this is happening. Penn State's in front. And you can see that thing sitting right in the center of the field, the 16-yard line. You're like, oh, this can't be good. And you know what? You know what I didn't think it was? I did not think it was a post-possession block. I thought it had to be holding in the secondary. I'm looking at him because of where it was. It didn't make it was so far behind the play. And you know what's interesting about it? It had nothing to do with the play. It had zero to do with the play. That doesn't mean the official's wrong for throwing it. He's just calling what he sees. Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I do want to get to a play in another game.
Where might this be?
Iowa.
Oh, boy. You really want to discuss Iowa, Steve? You really want to do it?
I want to explain this because I want to give the audience some perspective here on the Iowa play. The Cooper DeJean punt return. So it's 12-10. I know you're shocked. There's 22 points between these two teams. I mean, Jack, and you know how I never look at gambling because I could care less.
Never.
Well, when it comes to Iowa, Jack Ham and I will look to see what's the over and under. And the over and under on this game, we're driving to the airport on Friday. I says, can you believe the over and under on that thing dropped to 30.5? Right. And just a side note on Iowa, I asked Jim Lachey how his son Luke's doing. He's doing really well, and he said Luke might have a shot to play in the bowl game for them.
That's good.
So it's good because Jim that's Luke's dad, and he's the color analyst for Ohio State. So I talked to Jimmy before the game. Okay, so now let's get to the Iowa game. It's 12-10. I don't know, was a minute and 20 to go, something in that neighborhood. And we're watching this on the plane. Now, we don't have headsets, so we're just watching it. And that's our fault. We could have asked for headsets. Angie would have given us headsets. All right? But everybody just kind of wanted to sit down. I know it's hard to believe. We're just like, so Jack and I are watching this. And Iowa does what Iowa's defense usually does. They stop him, and it's going to be a 3-and-out. It's going to be a punt. He's going to punt from about, I don't know, it's 10, 12, 13, whatever. And DeJean's back there. Now, DeJean, with all due respect to the entire Iowa offense, my temptation would be to play that guy selectively both ways. Because this guy is a great athlete. He's not a good athlete.
He's a great athlete.
Kyle, he's a great athlete. You watch him play corner, outstanding. You watch him on punts. He brought a punt back against Michigan State for a touchdown, a game I was watching. Like, geez, this guy's good. So he's back there. So he goes back, and Jack looks at me and he says, Steve, that's their best chance to win right there. I said, you got that right. So this guy can maybe bring a punt back to maybe the 30. I said, their kicker is good enough to make it. I mean, their kicker's pretty good. I said, he could easily do that. So the punt goes. Punt hits the turf. Right? He grabs it. Right? I don't know I think it took 1 or 2 bounces. Well, he takes it right near the sideline. Boom. Darts through. Boom. Swings to the center of the field. Boom, boom. Makes a couple guys miss. Goes to the near corner. He gets the touchdown. 2 of us are laughing. We're in row 38. We can laugh a little bit. So we're way back in the plane. There's only one row behind us. Okay. And the two of us are laughing like, you got to be kidding me, really? And then it comes up. They're going to review it. So what's the first thing we think on review? Did he step out of bounds? Right? Because he was right near the sideline when he got. Did he inadvertently, just with the left foot touch
it a little bit, a little on the white.
He's cutting, whatever. And it was on NBC. I think it was on Peacock or NBC, one of the two. It doesn't matter to me. NBC. They have a great view right down the sideline. Right? It's you cannot dispute it's an awesome look. And he is about 6 inches to a foot in bounds.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, okay, that'll stand. And it's going on and on and on. Like, the two of us are looking, what the heck is this? What's taking so long with this? I said to Jack, they say he scored a touchdown. It can't be the clock. He's clearly in bounds. You can't call it penalty. So, he broke 3 tackles, and I didn't really see any other blocks that helped him. And all of a sudden, they come back and they say, no touchdown, that he called a fair catch, that he gave a fair catch signal. Okay. So now I said to Jack, now they're showing the replay of it. And we'd already seen the replays. And again, we're watching the replays for his
everything
feet.
Else.
We're watching for his feet. We're not watching his hands. Right?
Yeah.
So he gets his hand up in front, and I think what he's doing essentially, and it was with one hand, not with two. With one hand, he's probably giving them the poison call. Some people it's Peter, whatever, or it's poison, whatever. That tells his players, get away from it. I don't want you to be Cam Miller against UMass. I don't want you to be Julian Fleming of Ohio State against Penn State. I don't want the ball to inadvertently hit anybody. So you do the poison call, okay? And he's pointing. In the preseason, I talked to my class about this actually a couple of weeks ago. I said, look, you always do a lot of listening in this business. In fact, I think it's safe to say the entire week that's all I'm going to be doing is listening. I'm sure the people will feel they'll be able to vent.
Oh, yeah.
To me. I'll do a lot of listening this week. But you do a lot of listening in this business. Okay? Everyone thinks you do a lot of just all talking. No, listening is critical. In the preseason, Big Ten officials were at a Penn State scrimmage in Beaver Stadium. And I think it was on a Saturday. And when they were done, they gathered the team around and the officials talked to them about, sir, be careful about this, be careful about that. One of the areas they told the Penn State players to be careful was how they use their hands on kicks.
Really?
I'm standing there thinking, okay. Because what happens is that normally on a kickoff, let's just take kickoff, not a punt. You'll see a player motion, and he's yelling to the off guy, me, me, me. It's my ball. He said, be careful about going me, me, me. He says, because by bringing your hand up like that, we interpret that as a fair catch. He says, you've got to be me, 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 keep it close to yourself while yelling it out like that with a closed hand.
Yeah.
Right? He says, same thing with punt returners. Now, most punt returners, the vast majority, are back alone anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not a me, me, me call.
It's just a fair catch or a low.
Catch. Or on that play, hey, everybody, poison. Right? Don't touch it. Get away. Run away. Don't get near it.
Yeah.
Okay? And I think that's what he was trying to do, and he's motioning with one hand, but it never goes above his shoulder.
I'm watching it as we speak.
Because he was motioning with I think it was his right hand.
It's his right hand is going like this, like get out.
That was interpreted as a fair catch. Now, watch the play. You have to tell me in watching the play, because this is, did it look like anybody from Minnesota pulled up a bit?
A little bit. Two of the
first two guys.
There is the one Iowa player who he's waving off saying, get out, get out, get out.
Right.
There are two guys from Minnesota behind the play further that are kind of slowing down a little bit because they realize they're not going to be the first guys to get there.
Right.
They're kind of letting their first man get to him.
Right.
And they slow down a little bit, but as soon as the ball hits the ground, they speed up and keep running.
Right.
They don't stop.
Right. And he then takes it and he runs for a touch. He breaks like 1-2 tackles early, he then broke another tackle at like the 25-30. And
he breaks the first tackle, and then he all of a sudden is beyond 6 players.
Right, and then he breaks another tackle like that. The guy kind of reached out to get him, missed him at the 25 or whatever, and he goes to the end zone in the corner. How do you make that call? And again, I go back to when they were explaining it to the Penn State players in the preseason. You know what my first thought was in listening to it? What a bunch of BS. That was the first thing I thought when I was standing there listening to it. I said, what a bunch of BS is that? Isn't it obvious to anybody if you're yelling me,
yeah,
your hand signal is not whatever?
Well, that's the thing. His hand is in front of him here doing this. He's saying, get out, get out, get out.
We've always been told your hand had to go above your shoulder, and it had to be an obvious fair catch signal.
That's the thing. In the NFL, it's always a full arm wave like this, and then you catch it.
Right. And I'm thinking to myself, as I'm listening to the explanation, this was back in August. As I'm listening to this in August, I'm thinking, what the heck are they talking about? That makes no sense. Everybody knows what a fair catch signal is. Some guys will do it like, oh, really late? Well, guess what? It's like, okay. At that point, you're inviting trouble when you do it really like, okay, that really quick. I've never seen issues with fair catch signals. And they were talking about this as a point of emphasis. And then it comes up in this game. And that's why I said, Jack, I think these guys are totally wrong. I'm explaining to you what was explained in the explanation I heard in August.
Yeah.
He goes, you've got to be kidding me. I said, well, that was what I was thinking as it was being explained. Are you kidding me? Really?
Also, part of my question here to you, because I don't know the rules as well as you do, you can fair catch a ball that hits the ground.
Okay.
Because that's part of this. Is the ball hits the ground, bounces, and then he gets to it.
Yes, you can do that. And also on an onside kick. And before Penn State made its onside kick, I pointed out, when Sander was teeing it up, it said, keep in mind, if it says when that hits the ground the first time and it goes in the air, it said the team on the other side can call a fair catch. So I wanted to make sure people knew ahead of time that if it happened, right? So that's why I explained it at that point that they, which again was one I never knew about until I think it was spring. It was explained to me in the spring. There was like, no, the first bounce you can call a fair catch if you're the receiving team on an onside kick. On the first, not the second one. Once it hits the ground the second time, because Sanders had no shot at it. It dribbled.
Yeah.
He's really good at it. Where it just seems going to get that high bounce. Well, it turned out it went too far, and the Ohio State player did a great job, fielded it. And Penn State never really had a chance at it because the big bounce
went too high.
Well, not too high. It was too far. You needed to get a big bounce
up, straight up,
that goes up, but a little bit shorter than that. Where now it becomes a jump ball. Penn State never had a chance at a jump ball because that big bounce happened, and it happened like maybe 15 yards past where the kick occurred, that extra 5-6 yards. That's you're hoping to get that big bounce around maybe 12.
Yeah.
Right, that extra 5 yards, you can't really get to it at that unless he drops it. But you can actually fair catch. Like I kick it, boom, and it takes a big bounce right away. On an onside kick, you can fair catch it.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's one of those little known, you got to be kidding me rules.
And this is part of it, is the ball bounced, hit the ground, and all of this happens. And what this makes me think of, as someone who's seen a lot of weird things happen in sports recently, especially since you started working with me, is what happened. I believe it was Harper against Angel Hernandez, where he did not go around.
That was awful.
He wasn't close.
Wasn't even close.
And then he was like, he went around completely. Where it's like, he's not fair catching it because he's waving his player off. He's waving him saying, get out, get out, get out. And then he's like, but his hand was above his shoulder. Is there a specific line? Is it onside versus offside for football, for soccer, where they're as soon as he's a quarter of an inch up,
it
fair
depends
catch.
on the individual.
Crazy.
It depends on the individual. Now remember, okay, so let's take this off the plate of the officials on the field. What did the officials on the field call it a touchdown?
Mm-hmm.
It's the replay guys that overturned it. And which group have I had more problems with over the years?
The replay guys.
I've always had more problems with the replay guys than the guys calling in a real. Because look, the game's fast; it's in real time. We talk about the flag being thrown back at the 16-yard line on the Jacobs return for a touchdown, right? Well, in real time, the official's back there. I don't know, it's a back judge or whomever it was throws it because that's what he's watching. Okay, so in real time, that's the play he calls. I don't have a problem with that. Does it have anything to do with the play? No. Zero to do with the play, right? But it's something like this. So, okay, the guys on the field called it a touchdown, which means you have to have indisputable video evidence, and these guys overturned it. Now, whether it was overturned in conjunction with the referee on the field, because he's got that really tremendous monitor down there, I think that they got from Radio Shack, right? I don't get it, and see that. Here's the problem I have with there's a lot of great officials, please, all right. And I know people are like, oh, Jerry, I like Jerry McGinn. I like Jerry McGinn as an official, and I like Jerry McGinn personally. I've talked to Jerry a lot over the years. He's been great to deal with.
Of course.
Okay, so this is not, okay? And what I like about Jerry, and I've told Jerry this, I said, Jerry, what I like about you is, hey, I said, look, none of us are going to be perfect. I said, players are going to make a mistake. Coaches will make mistakes. I said, I know it's hard to believe broadcasters make mistakes. I mean, I made a couple, right? I said, and you guys make mistakes. I said, but you have a great feel for the game. See, and that's the difference, right? And it's the people that don't, like Angel Hernandez does not have, based on a large body of work, a great feel for the game.
Not at all.
Okay? No, I'm just saying, though.
No, yeah.
Right? Doesn't mean that he doesn't he gets plenty right, but he doesn't have a great feel for the game. And that's why it comes out. And there are certain officials or officiating groups you can see right away who has a feel for the game, who doesn't. Whomever's making that call in Chicago, Pittsburgh, wherever the heck they do the video thing, I think it's Chicago, right? Didn't have a feel for the game, a feel for what he's doing. We're not parsing like a rule here to do something like that. And I'm not here defending Iowa. If it was Minnesota, I'd be saying the same thing. I could care less. All right? And it's always the people that have the real feel for it that become the separators as to how good they are. And I've told Jerry straight out. I said, hey, Jerry, that's one thing I've always respected. I said, you've always had a great feel for the game. I said, are you perfect? No. I said, am I perfect? No. I said, are coaches perfect? No. Players aren't perfect. I said, now, people who post on social media, okay, now they're perfect.
I am perfection, exemplified.
Perfect.
But Jason, I don't know about that.
It's a perfect example of, no, I'm just kidding.
Him, Angel Hernandez, same area.
I'd take Jason over every time. Now, the Pitt game. Hey, this goes back to feel for the game. So let's talk about the Pitt-Wake Forest game, because Jack and I watched a little bit of that. Pitt apparently seals the game with an interception. Great play, right? Not a good throw, but hey, look, the Pitt defender's there. He makes his play, seals it. This is after Pitt hit a big touchdown pass. Christian threw the touchdown pass. They was like, holy mackerel, what a great play. They're in front. Okay. All right, now, Wake Forest is driving. Boom. He gets an interception. Okay. So on the play, there's people scrambling the ball. Pitt player grabs a guy by the leg and yanks him. I mean, doesn't pull him off the pile, yanks him and drags him off the pile. I don't know, how many yards?
Yeah.
3, 4 yards, right? Didn't pull him off and okay, he went
takes
down
him and keeps
moves
going.
out of the way. He kept going. Flag. The entire Pitt bench goes out on the field. Flag. They get 30 yards in penalties for not being disciplined. 30 yards. So now they're backed up. Now let's get the feel for the game. Christian does the right thing on a 3rd and long. He breaks out of the pocket, right? He gets to the sideline, and instead of going out of bounds, he decides to slide.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. I hit your camera there.
You keep on hitting it. How dare you? Continue.
Right? So he slides. Right? I'm thinking, I said, that's pretty close, but I mean, you know.
Mm.
And all of a sudden, like, they're going through, like, same thing. Replay, parsing. Where do you go? Because the guy in the field put him down short.
Yeah.
The guy in the field put him down short. Like, okay. And we're looking at it like, okay, I said, maybe. Because it's where you start your slide. I hate that rule.
It should be where you go down, but
It should be where you go down.
when your knee hits,
Okay,
that's your
knee
down.
hits or your backside in this case. So it could be your knee, right? It's where the ball is
When those
your
hit.
knee hits or your backside hits, whichever hits first. Well, based on that, he's got a first, and you know what he's trying to do. And that's a feel for the game call. And no.
It's like a 2-3 yard difference is what it ends up being most of the time. Because if you start your slide, you can slide 3 or 4. You can get 3 or 4 yards before you hit.
Right. And this is
a big difference.
This is not him avoiding a hit on the play. This is him avoiding going out of bounds so the clock will keep running once they reset for the first down. It is, how often have we praised people, Saquon Barkley against the Baltimore Ravens for sliding, Patrick Mahomes against the Jets for sliding after getting a first down. Oh, brilliant, kept the clock going, and blah, blah, blah. Christian Veyer tries to do exactly the same thing. And he's got you know, Captain Parcelot over on the sideline, like parsing out like 5 inches as to where he thinks he started the slide. There's nobody near him. He's not trying to avoid anybody. He's just trying to, and I looked at him and went, I mean, technically? Is it right technically? Probably
By the letter of the law.
By the letter of like every inch.
But by the letter of the law, there's probably 13 holds every play, and none of them are called. It's like...
Well, one was called.
Yeah, but it's
back to you on that.
But there's this picking and choosing, and it's the feel of the game, as you said. There's the right time and the wrong time to call things. And if you ask the good referees, they say, we're not going to rule him down there because we know exactly what he's doing. He is sliding to stay the clock on, and he clearly got there. He got what he had to do, and if they wanted to call him short, they would have called him shorter earlier or whatever, or longer, whatever it is.
If he'd started the slide a yard back.
Yeah.
All right, you know, and I'm like going, okay, he misjudged it. That's on him. Okay.
Or if it was a blatant, like he was 4 yards back when he slid and the refs just whiffed.
I mean, even a yard back, you're like, it's kind of obvious what he's doing here. Like you know, he misjudged it. That's on him, the player. But this was like really like within a couple of inches. I mean, really?
Yeah.
Like, wow. And I mean, I have no dog in the hunt. I'm just looking at it going, that is really, and again, officiating's hard. They are having trouble getting people to officiate across the country, high school level especially, where participation from players is up 9% since the pandemic, which is tremendous. That's great to see. The pool of officials is not increasing at the same rate. And it's because people on talk shows or podcasts, I'm sorry. No.
I don't know what you're referring to, Steve.
Or people in the stands or parents. It's like, okay.
As someone who has refereed before, I was a former Little League umpire back in my heyday. There are some parents who get on you. You know, I'm umpiring second grade boys in baseball, and there was a parent that did shout profanities at me for calling a ball instead of a strike. And I said, ma'am, it is not that deep. Your child is losing 19-3.
Yeah.
It was borderline, and I went with my gut.
Right.
I think it's okay.
Well,
I'll bring you some joy.
I was thinking about a grandfather once who was a good friend of mine. Mm-hmm. He's since this passed. He was a grandfather, and he'd kid me all the time about just kidding me. Mm-hmm. And one day I'm out coaching a Babe Ruth baseball game, and as the manager, you coach third. So I'm manager, I'm coaching third. There's a base hit to left field, had a kid on second. Kid in left field, pretty good arm, but it wasn't hit that. It was a base hit, but he was not playing deep. And the young man I had on second had good speed, but not great speed. So I hold him up, and all of a sudden I hear from the stands, because he wasn't at the game when the game began. I hear, "Why didn't you send him?" Right, and I'm standing there. I had this big smile on my face. I started to laugh, and I didn't turn around. I said, "Oh my God." I turned around, and he's laughing. I'm laughing because he was joking around. But it was one of those things. Like, there are not a lot of those exchanges in other games.
A lot of the time, they are profanities. Again, I didn't know second graders could hear profanities like that. But I guess me calling that ball and her son, hey, he wanted to get his first walk of the game. He struck out 4 times straight. He had a golden sombrero going. It's not great for him. Yeah.
But look, you know what? Now it's Indiana week. Mm-hmm. What did I do yesterday? I prepped the Indiana game. Mm-hmm. You don't do anything extra for Ohio State that you don't do for Indiana. Mm-hmm. I went to practice last night. There was some jump in that practice last night. We're like, okay, all right. Mm-hmm. Because you've got to be able to shake off what's a major disappointment for every single person. Mm-hmm. Every single person. It's a major disappointment. You have to shake it off, because guess what? That was not the last game of the season.
No, you've
got to get back to work. You've got to play this game, take care of business, and keep going. Because guess what? I'm going to go back. I know we have to stop here, but I'm going to go back to like 17, 19. Those 2 years in particular. Mm-hmm. I remember Penn State getting to like near the start. It was November, like November 1. And I remember telling people, I said, here's the problem Penn State has. Mm-hmm. There's no game on the schedule left that can vault them. Mm-hmm. They just, they'll win games. I said, but nothing vaults them and gives them that signature moment. Mm-hmm. Penn State still has that chance.
Mm-hmm. November 11th.
So you've got to take care of business now. You've got to take care of it Saturday. You've got to then take care of it on the road. Mm-hmm. And then you've got another signature chance in your building. So that's how you have to look at it. Mm-hmm. They're going to – I don't want to hear what they're going to do. No, I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear it. Like, every game's an entity unto itself. That's, like, very difficult for a lot of people to understand that every game takes on its own personality. I've done a billion of these things. Mm-hmm. And so I make no assumptions. You've got to take care of business now, because the season did not end Saturday.
That it did not.
Thank you for listening to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, a 7 Mountain Media production. Come back at 11 every weekday for analysis of the latest happening in the sports landscape. From college football to European soccer, Steve and Kyle cover it all on Sports Talk with Steve Jones.